Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We're talking about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And I'm here today on a Tuesday with our founder and chief editor, Bill Moore. How's it going today, Bill? Can you hear me today? Bill, did you lose audio? Bill seems frozen in time. I don't know. There we go.
Something's
Oh,
not right.
there you are. Now I hear you. Okay, well, we were having some
Yeah,
interesting,
yeah,
maybe you're having a
problems.
delay. I think maybe you're having a delay. So, but that's okay. That's okay. I wanted to real quick talk first of all, obviously the big news is the stock market's been in turmoil this week. Stock market lost approximately
Mhm.
4 trillion in value as Trump proceeds on tariffs. It's interesting to see because this has
Yeah.
really spooked investors. Now, the funny thing is, the investors who decided to hold their positions and sit on the sidelines are institutions. So they make the biggest changes in the markets. But then who gets out when they're at a loss? The retail investors end up selling
Mhm.
off. And so you get kind of some weirdness because what you see is in a situation like this, you see all this cash get pulled out of the stock market and put on the sidelines. Okay. So when there's this much volatility going on
Well,
in the market,
yeah. So what are the sidelines? They just pull them out and stick it in a money market fund, or they buy
yeah,
some
they'll stick it
bonds,
in.
or
They'll put it in treasuries. They'll do a number of things that where it's still fairly liquid. They could quickly
right,
redeploy it, but they're
right.
still making more than bank returns on it.
Yeah,
Okay, but they'll sit on the side. I mean, you look at it. I mean, I'm not even sure what Buffett's sitting on, but it's in the hundreds of billions of dollars, of cash, and
yeah,
he's just sitting on the sidelines right now.
yeah.
Okay, so it's interesting to kind of see this now. Um, I've been watching this whole thing with Canada going back and forth. So Canada's put this 25% tariff on electricity they're exporting
Hmm.
to the US,
Yeah,
which is kind of
yeah.
different. And I read this news article and it was really bad at grid math. Okay. So we all know that grid math is different than regular math. Okay. There's something different when you get electricity, but they were saying that they're imposing a 25% tariff, which is going to increase the cost of electricity by $10 a megawatt hour. Okay, so
Okay,
that's 1 cent a kilowatt.
right.
Okay, but they were saying that was going to raise the average person that's affected by this, or the average household, going to raise their power bill $100 a month.
Mm,
When you and I know that's probably a 5% increase, so they'd have to have about a $2,000 a month normal power bill for it to be $100. Okay, grid math apparently works different than other math. I just haven't quite figured out because
figured
they
out
were
what that
thinking,
math is. Yeah,
yeah. Well, I guess they were assuming that if somebody had a $400 electric bill, which is huge. I can't imagine having a $400 electric bill. I've had that before in the summertime with my pool running and everything going, lots of stuff. The pool alone used
right.
almost as much electricity as my house. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. But that being said, that would have, another $100 would have made it $500. It's kind of what they're saying. And that was incredibly high, middle of the summer type air conditioning use. And this was in Tennessee where everything was electric. We didn't gas anything. Okay.
no, all of part
So
of Tennessee Valley Authority.
yeah. And anyways, but what it's affecting is so those states are buying power from Canada for 4 cents a kilowatt,
Hmm.
and the price is now going to 5 cents a kilowatt. They're probably charged now. The big cost of electricity isn't the actual buying the power, it's the cost of the transmission lines.
Distribution. Yeah,
Yeah. So the
distribution.
cost of generating the power isn't excessive. It's transmitting it to the end
Mhm.
customer is the big
Right.
cost. That's
Yeah.
not changing. The cost of transmission isn't changing at all. So what's happening is those parts of the country pay well over 20 cents a kilowatt hour for electricity. So if it's going up, they're going to have to pass that cost on to the consumer. That 1 cent only represents at most a 5% increase, it may be more like a 4% increase. I'm not saying that doesn't still suck, but I'm just saying it's a little overblown in the media. And I think that maybe some of the people
Well, then
who
in
wrote the articles,
then in retaliation, the gentleman sitting in the Oval Office decides to tack on what, 50% tariff on aluminum and steel products in Canada?
do we get aluminum and steel products from Canada?
Oh yeah, they have
Yeah,
one of the major sources, particularly of aluminum, because
yeah.
they have all that hydroelectric power.
I watched a video last night where a Canadian was talking about
You know,
how
one of the
much.
major producers. Who do you who do you think is one of the major? Who do you think is one of the major producers of aluminum?
I guess Canada.
Oh, we're really having some connection issues here. Sorry, everybody.
No, it's okay. Yeah. Oh well,
Pardon?
but this gentleman Owen is saying you lose a lot in
This is
transmission. He's
really
not
a
referring to
sucky
you. He's
connection.
Yeah, you are
Sorry,
having challenges
everybody.
today, Bill. But yeah, you lose power in the transmission depending on the distance that you're shipping the power. But I'm just saying it really wasn't that big of a thing. But I was watching somebody talking, a Canadian talking about this. Goes, we have these huge tariffs on American goods already. And now when the U.S. does it to us, all of a sudden it's some big trade war. And so it was interesting. This guy was reviewing all these different tariffs that Canada places. A lot of it is in the food space, like dairy and stuff like that. They really have high tariffs on our
Mhm.
food going up there, which I thought was kind of interesting. And then never really, always thought it was supposed to be free trade, right? But Canada's had big tariffs on the U.S. in a lot of spaces for a long time, but it's not been in industries where it's really mattered. Um,
Yeah.
but I just find that kind of fascinating because we're in this green space, and and of course I'm going to segue into something from this. And one of the big things was we have this article on solar in the United States last year added more new capacity to the US power grid than any other single energy source in the past 20 years. That's
Yeah.
really
Amazing,
a
isn't
huge
it?
thing.
Yeah.
And we get all this criticism of green energy and green new scam and all that. And I get the problems with it. Like I always say, it all goes back to Solyndra back in what was that, 2009? You know, I
Oh,
mean,
was it?
Solyndra was a
Yeah.
long time, like 15 years ago. But everybody thinks that everything having to do with green energy is a scam now. And
Yeah. Who's blamed for that? So anyway.
yeah, no, I get it, but you know, it really left a bad taste for half the population as to what's going on with green energy. And you and I know green energy, is getting bigger and bigger all the time. Overseas,
Mhm.
it's bigger than in the United States, but in the U.S., what is it? We're over 20% solar and wind now. I mean, for U.S. power grid generation, I mean, we're in
Oh,
a
yeah. I haven't checked. I haven't checked our local Southwest Power Pool (SPP), I think it is .org. But there are typically, particularly when you're getting now into the springtime weather, we can have 60% of our power here that's running this computer and allowing our conversation to take place and my lights to be on coming from wind. 60% of the grid from wind.
wow.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
that doesn't
damn
seem
good.
surprising though, as windy this year.
Well, yeah, it can be windy here. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
whole idea. That's why you see all those wind turbines along Interstate 80 when you drive to Des Moines.
Yeah, I'm surprised that you don't see more wind turbines on people's roofs. Like I have solar, but the wind turbine would
Yeah,
make a lot of sense, right?
well, I don't know. I've seen debates on both sides of that thing, so I'm not. Basically, it's the law of scaling.
Right.
That the bigger you make the sweep of the turbine, the more efficient it becomes, or something
Hmm.
to that effect. So a little, spinning cyclone type turbine, will that generate enough to power your house? I'm not sure. And then there are issues that typically neighbors complain about the noise they make. So, I mean, solar panels are they make no noise whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's just there. They absorb the photons and convert it to electrons. Wind turbines mounted on your roof, um, unless there's been changes, and I haven't really seriously looked at that for, at least a good decade now. But the main chief complaint there is the fact that they generate a fair amount of noise and it disturbs the neighborhood. So,
Um, so the US in 2024 installed 50 gigawatts of new solar capacity. That's enough to power 8.5 million households.
that's fabulous. That is
That is a
fabulous.
lot of homes.
Yep.
And that's, I believe this is only like, we're only talking solar farms here. We're not talking, um, stuff at your home. Okay.
Right. Right.
And America's solar and storage industry set historic deployment and manufacturing records in 24, creating jobs and driving economic growth. It's critical that lawmakers continue to support an all of the above energy strategy that fosters the growth of American energy sources like solar and storage. I was looking at something on Twitter where somebody was complaining about some loan that the loan program office generated for some solar farm somewhere. And they wanted to report that to Doge as being fraud. But one of the things Doge has said is they're not touching the loan program office. And a little bit of that is because we had Jigger Shaw on here and he was talking. It's like they weren't supposed to make money. They did it by accident, or it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
unintentional that they were, do that. Why don't they make a wall with lots of small turbines that are cheap to fix? A
Wall.
wall.
Okay. I was wondering, walk. What is walk? So sorry, Owen. Why don't they
Yeah.
make? There are projects around the world where you see they've mounted these. I'm going to call them cyclone-like turbines, basically vertical axis turbines, in the median between a roadway. So if you've got the interstate is too far, but if you've got a motorway, where you've got a very narrow lane of separation, they can put those turbines there, and as the traffic goes both ways, the wind that generates causes those turbines to spin, and they can use that electricity for, I'm not sure what, maybe power, power traffic lights or street lights or whatever, or maybe it's just it connects to the grid and provides power into the local grid. So yeah, that's being done. And putting it, I don't know about putting it on on the top of the wall between Mexico and America. I don't think that's the best place to put it. Generally, when you engineer these things, you want them to be either at a seashore, because that allows for the movement of air between diurnal movement of air from the heating and cooling of the water and the land, or you want to put it somewhere where there's a Brunelli effect, where the air gets compressed and speeds up going over a mountain or through a valley, and then that generates a more constant amount of speed. Or here on the Great Plains, where the wind can blow, forever, and there's little to disturb it. Places like that. So putting on a wall, I don't know if that'll do it. Do any good. I think, if I remember correctly, Aero Environment, my good old friends, I think they developed a wind turbine that sat on the edge of the building of of a commercial office building or whatever, apartments, sat on the top of that. And because of the air rising and moving over the top of that thing would generate some amount of power. But again, I don't know if that's in the, kilowatt range, or whether what we need is actually more in the gigawatt range. And that becomes a function of the size, of the turbine. So that just can't get around that physics.
No. Um, U.S. solar capacity expected to reach 739 gigawatts by 2035. The report, though, forecasts includes scenarios showing how policy changes could impact the solar market. Sudden changes to federal tax credits, supply chain availability, and permitting policy will create uncertainty for investors, increase costs for developers, and cause a slowdown in solar deployment. A low case forecast shows a 130 gigawatt decline in solar deployment over the next gigawatt compared to the base case. representing nearly $250 billion of lost investment. A slowdown could mean the U.S. would be without the electricity needed to meet rising demand, threatening growth in the manufacturing sectors that rely on abundant power. That's really, threatening growth of technology that relies on abundant power. It's like that is almost like, that's really like almost downplaying it. We're excessively needs power, a voracious
Oh,
appetite for power. It's
turn, turn,
you know,
turn off the power to your house and see how your life changes. You can't
yeah,
make coffee. You can't connect to the internet. You got to come up with some alternative to light the house at night. I mean, think about that. You
you
know,
can't
you
watch
know,
David
you,
and Bill.
you can't watch us.
Yeah.
You might be better off for it, but
There you go. Yeah, it might spend some more time outside.
yeah,
Um,
exactly, exactly.
yeah, but anyways, it's just
Chopping wood for your stove.
there you go. Yeah, well, we talk about this all the time. That used to be one of the big problems was people were dying from wood stoves from the emissions from the wood stoves. Then, we switched to coal, and then people switched to gas and electricity and all these other things, and now we're saying, well, what's better for everybody. It's funny to keep seeing these transitions. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
in 50 years we'll be coming up with something that will be the solution to solar and nuclear, right? And
Lithium crystals, Captain.
dilithium crystals, there you go. Yeah. um that's what we need. So
Well,
I
no,
had
interestingly, sci-fi, which episode was it? I think it was Star Trek where they went back in time and brought some whales forward.
mhm.
That what they did is that object that was orbiting the Earth was interrupting their grid in that Star Trek series. They had to rely on their backup Earth power, which my understanding is that was geothermal. So they were had as their Earth backup was using geothermal energy to generate power. So not so far fetched. We're kind of heading in that direction.
All right, so I want to talk about oh uh, let's see. I want to talk about Workhorse. So I actually thought Workhorse had gone out of business when they didn't get when they lost
That's
so they were going after the postal contract, right?
right.
And
Yep.
when they didn't get the postal contract, I thought that maybe they went into bankruptcy or something. I'm not even sure about this, but all of a sudden
That's
there's
yeah.
this news that Workhorse electric delivery vans are arriving in Canada this spring. And here's a picture of one. Im- there's not a lot of images for this particular story, but at one time they had made prototypes. They lost the contract to Oshkosh Defense for the
We're
Postal
having we're
Service.
having we're having technical issues again, boy.
Yeah, well, you just never know, do you? Anyways, so this is what their vans look like, but they're going to be bringing their W56 and W750 model electric delivery vans to commercial truck dealers in Canada this spring.
Oh,
So here we thought they were kind of going away. They had sold trucks to FedEx and Pride Group, which ordered more than 6,000 of the electric vans in 2021 and continues to expand its fleet. Did not realize that they had. Oh, and looks like Bill is reloading or something. Bill is spinning. But yeah, here I thought that Workhorse had left us, but it appears that they're making a comeback again. So, and but I don't know what their deliveries look like or anything. The article really didn't get into that space. All right. So I'm going to move on and I'm going to talk a little bit about Nissan. So we've been talking for a while about how Nissan was looking to merge with Honda, and as a part of that, also with Mitsubishi. But for some reason, that didn't go through, and people were saying, "Are we back, Bill?"
I'm back. I don't know what happened. It just dropped my connection. So I don't know. Sorry, everybody. It's been kind of a funny day. Well, hey, we shouldn't feel bad. We're not Twitter.
There you go. Yeah, at least we're not Twitter. But you know what? That's where, how I say some days we get just crushed with viewers from Twitter, and other days we don't. Today we're getting crushed with viewers. So obviously Twitter is working today.
Yeah, must be.
So,
Okay.
um, but anyways, I want to talk about Nissan's CEO Makoto Uchida is stepping down on April 1st. He's going to be replaced by. So he's not just yet. They're waiting till April Fool's Day. Okay, so on April Fool's Day, they're going to be replaced by Chief Planning Officer Ivan Espinoza. And the change is one of several among the company's top executives as the automaker grapples with declining sales.
Yeah.
Nissan has cut its profit projections 3 times in the current fiscal year. That's really cutting it down a lot. Nissan's had some weirdness among CEOs. Maybe they can do a little better. After the one guy did whatever it was, and he was
Well,
trying to hide and be snuck out of the
yeah.
country in luggage or something.
Yeah,
I
and then went to oh boy, I went to Lebanon. There's a great place to go. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So,
I don't know. Does
anyways,
he have a Interpol red card against him, or what?
yeah, that's some just weirdness, isn't it? But anyways, so Nissan's going to figure something out. They were the leader in the U.S. with the Leaf. They still have the Leaf, right? They haven't done as well with the Nissan Ariya. They have no hybrids. They don't have regular hybrids, plug-in hybrids. They never really went into that space. And I'm sure they're feeling the crunch of trying to sell cars into China, where they're probably being pushed out there. I don't know that their sales are probably declining in the U.S. They're probably about the same, but it's tough when you have this big 800-pound gorilla called BYD taking over car sales in a lot of
Yeah.
countries. You know,
Yep.
I think it's putting a lot of pressure on a lot of car manufacturers. That's why you're seeing the U.S. big three aren't doing well in China anymore. But I just thought this was just interesting to see, because we reported on Nissan a couple times. And hopefully, the new CEO, of course, that's still another month yet before he takes over, 3 weeks. But
Boy, and I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to be appointed head of a company struggling to remain relevant on April Fool's Day.
yeah, I know. I just saw that. And
Yeah.
I had to make that wasn't part of the story. Okay,
No, no, probably
I
not.
threw that
No, but
in
April
there.
1st. Yeah.
Yeah, people will understand. I'm a bit of a cynic on a lot of the news, and sometimes like, oh, could this be an early April Fool's joke? But
Yeah.
all right, Bill, I know you want to talk about Elon Musk's biographer warns the billionaire is going mad due to combination of
Oh,
depression, drugs, and stress. I find this
yeah.
fascinating.
Well, I don't know. I mean, my job here at EV World is to scour the internet for news about electric vehicle technology. Everything, from bikes to buses to boats and beyond, right? And the elephant in the room today, you cannot escape it, is the
Hmm.
whole brouhaha around Elon Musk and Doge and the one headline I saw that Elon Musk, and I had to sit down and count the numbers. 20 lost in 24 hours, according to this article, lost $29 billion in 24 hours. And now you've
Hmm.
got Seth Abramson coming in and saying, well, the problem is he's under enormous stress. I mean, he's got these high tech companies. I mean, they just had another disastrous launch at SpaceX with Starship number 8 blowing
Hmm.
up on them. They caught the booster. That's the third successful catch, which is remarkable. but they have bits and pieces of the Starship A scattered across the Caribbean, and a lot of
Hmm.
people caught it on their smartphone cameras. Um, so he's got that. Then he
Hmm.
has this whole kickback that's happening with Doge, and then he's got and the boycotts, which, by the way, the president says boycotts are illegal, and the people behind it are lunatics, and it's being funded by George Soros
Hmm.
and a couple of dead people.
Hmm.
So you got that. And then he has his eldest daughter come out and say, my dad wanted to pay me to have a transsexual operation to become a boy. I mean, so he's got, and what he's got fights now. He's going on with his two of his paramours who are, he's the father of the 13th and 14th, of his kids. God, one
Well,
of those problems would drive me to ketamine, let alone all
yeah,
this,
he,
So
he's certainly
I
got
don't
some
know.
issues.
I don't know if Seth is that far off the mark here, frankly. And he's not
Yeah.
the only one. There are other voices that I'm hearing the same thing. And this is the guy we want reorganizing the government.
Well,
You know,
he has said that
talk about the blind
population
leading the blind.
he has said that population decline is a real problem. So he's obviously at least going with, he says we need more babies. So he's doing his part.
Well, he personally wants to make sure that he ensures, yeah, he ensures the white race survives. He's personally responsible.
Oh, now.
That's kind of like Genghis Khan. Genghis
Hmm.
Khan's genes apparently are spread all over Southeast Asia.
Yeah. Or all of Asia.
So, oh,
Yeah.
good. Now we've lost David.
Oh, I'm
Wow. I don't
still
know what's
here.
going on with the connections today, folks, but
Oh,
if you're
I still
still
hear
there
you, Bill.
bearing with us, thank you. We appreciate it. I don't know whether it's my connection. Dave is using Allo for his internet connection,
Hmm.
and I'm using CenturyLink for my. I'm using a DSL. Is that right? DSL.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're out, Bill. Well, yeah. Bill thinks I'm having connection issues, and I think he's having some kind of weirdness. I think he still uses ISDN, which is older than DSL technology. Yeah, whereas I'm on a fiber connection, so I've got gigabit up, gigabit down, so I've got pretty steady connection. But we are in the same town, so um, anyways, uh, so here he comes back. Here he comes back. I don't know if we can attribute all of that to you know, Musk being on drugs or anything, but a lot of people think he's doing a great job, and you got a lot of people who don't, you know. And Bill,
Oh,
we think you
geez,
have
what's happening
ISDN.
today? I'm back again. Dropped twice now.
Bill's on AOL dial up, and
No, it's DSL.
it's DSL now.
DSL. I thought it was ISDN, but no, it's DSL.
Okay.
No, I'm not. I
he's on
used to
his
be once
he's
upon
on
a
his
time.
56K modem. He's on his 56K modem.
I don't know. I've been having issues with the speed of my internet here for the last week or so. So
Yeah.
I may have to justify going to Allo. In fact, their truck was just out here this morning.
Well, then you
So
probably get
yeah.
service in your area. I like having the same speed up and down. I'm not The only issue I've had was they gave me extra equipment due to the size of the house, and I
Uh-huh.
started having multiple devices trying to assign IPs, and it
Oh,
ended up kind of shutting us all out. And only by taking some of those extra like range extenders and stuff like that, taking them
right.
off, were we able to get it fixed. So um,
Yeah.
I figured it out, but I had to get to their tier 2 support to figure it out. It was really kind of a bizarre situation, but um, anyways,
Well, I told the young man, the sales guy who actually came around here over the weekend from Allo. I said, "Well, you're using it, so I'm going to see how you like it, and then we'll decide what to do." I mean, it's been fine up until now, but yeah, it's
I've
kind of a
not.
funky day today.
Yeah, I haven't had an outage since we figured out the IP collisions. Once we figured out the IP collision problem and got
Well,
and
we're down
eliminated that.
again.
Yeah, that's you, Bill. That's not me. Yeah.
Uh,
Anyways,
hey,
let's.
I, yeah, I'm going, Dave.
I'm
Yeah, that's
still
what I'm
here.
saying.
You.
I think I'm going to have to wrap up because this just you're in and out, and I'm, you know, okay.
Well,
Anyway,
we're near the end,
as soon as
anyways.
we're done with this, guys, I'm going over the short drive about 10 miles that direction. I'm going to go pick up a brand new, well, not new, a used Chevrolet Bolt. So that's the
Yeah, Bill's getting a Bolt. I have all kinds of questions for Bill about his Bolt. Trying to figure out where he got one locally because they've not been easy to find in my market. Let's see. Um, yes, well, that's probably what our issue was. Um, but anyways, let's talk about SeaGlider. So SeaGlider is a company we've covered before that's making effectively, it looks like an airplane, but it relies on energy coming off of ground effects coming off the waves. And so it looks like this. It's an electric commuter aircraft, but it only flies like 20, 30 feet above the waves. And um, they just have done their first test flights with passengers. So they have been doing test flights with pilots. Now they're adding passengers and doing test flights. This is something that's kind of like ideal, say, island to island, like in the Hawaiian Islands, and has numerous propellers mounted on a blown wing. The Regent Viceroy SeaGlider carries 12 passengers and 2 crew over about 180 miles at 180 miles per hour cruising speed, altitudes of 30 to 60 feet above the water. And here's what it looks like. Let's see if I can get this here. I'll play a little faster. Let's see. But you get an idea of what that looks like. Maybe they'll actually show it flying. There it is in the water. There we go. Oh, there it is, getting going. It's a lot of propellers. It's pretty cool looking though. A seaplane essentially. Oh, they never did show it actually take off, but that was a good little clip. The company won approval from the U.S. Coast Guard to run tests of a full-size prototype of the Viceroy last September, and it's finally pulled it off. It's the same size as the upcoming production version. It's 55 feet long with a 65-foot wingspan. The company was founded in 2020, and like I said, it's basically a flying boat. I always liked the old PBYs and stuff like that, and this is kind of exciting. Yeah, there's you can find bolts for sale online. My point is that where we live, there's never been a lot of EVs, so there's not a whole lot of used EVs. So if you were shopping, in Florida or California or Oregon, Colorado, there's probably lots of them for sale. It's just where we're at, they're um, much more rare in this part of the country. So that's just kind of the nature of being in the middle of the country where EVs haven't been adopted as much yet. Anyways, folks, that's our coverage for today. And I want to thank everybody for chiming in. We've had really good viewership today. And I'll be back with engineer Mike Herzog tomorrow. And Bill will be back with me Thursday. Hopefully he'll have his internet connection working a little bit better. Anyways, thanks again, folks. Have a great day.